Hello and welcome back to Geopolitics Worldwide. This map shows London's tube and rail systems, which might look a little confusing like a tangle of lines at first glance. However, it actually represents nearly all of London's public transportation networks. Each color corresponds to a different transport line, and while there are many, we'll focus on the main ones. The solid color lines for the London Underground, the orange lines for the London Overground trains, the lime green lines for the trams, the blue lines for the Docklands Light Railway or DLR, and various other colored lines for the National Rail Services. These systems are essential to London's functioning as the city is home to nearly 10 million people, not including tourists and visitors from other parts of the UK. Transport for London, or TfL, which manages most of the city's public transport, is highly ranked worldwide for its efficiency. To better understand how these systems work together, it's helpful to consider the transport networks on either side of the River Thames, as the north and south sides have developed differently. The northern part of London is well served by the London Underground, also known as the Tube. First opened in 1863, the Tube was part of the world's first underground transportation system and remains a symbol of London's innovative infrastructure. The London Underground is a rapid transit system that serves 5 million people daily, making it one of the busiest metro systems in the world. It consists of 11 different lines primarily covering the Greater London area, with some extensions into Buckinghamshire, Essex, and Hertfordshire. The Tube is known for its efficiency and speed. For instance, on the Victoria Line, trains run every 100 seconds even during peak times, meaning there's another train ready before the previous one has even left the platform. The network connects 272 stations throughout London, with the longest distance between any two stations being just 6.3 kilometers, between Chalfont and Latimer and Chesham and Metropolitan Line. The entire Tube network spans 250 miles, making it the 7th largest metro system globally. However, the Underground alone isn't enough to meet London's transportation needs. The London Overground, a suburban rail network, complements the Tube by providing routes that circle central London rather than cutting through it, helping to avoid the congestion of the city's core. It has the next highest ridership with 189 million passengers annually across 113 stations on 9 lines. Another option is the Docklands Light Railway, which primarily serves East London, especially the Docklands area located north of the River Thames. While more niche, the DLR still carries over 100 million passengers annually, offering a direct connection between London's two major financial districts, Canary Wharf and City of London. This makes it the busiest light rail system in the UK. Before diving into the public transportation available south of the River Thames, it's important to mention London's extensive bus network, which is heavily used on both sides of the river. In fact, buses are the most utilized mode of transport in London, and the city's bus system is one of the most comprehensive in the world. London's bus system is vast, with over 9,000 iconic red buses and the second largest zero-emission bus fleet in Europe, only behind Moscow. Around 6 million passengers use the buses daily, with 7,000 journeys covering over 700 different routes. This amounts to an annual ridership of over 2 billion people. To put that into perspective, London's bus network carries roughly the same number of passengers annually as the combined bus networks of New York City, Los Angeles, and Paris. The system is also relatively affordable. For instance, a full day of bus travel costs a maximum of $5.50, and the Hopper fare allows unlimited bus or tram rides within an hour for less than $2. London's bus service is further enhanced by the congestion charge, which requires private vehicles in central London to pay $17 per day. In its first year, the congestion charge led to a 30% reduction in traffic congestion, a 30% increase in average speeds, and a 38% rise in bus passenger numbers. This kind of system is uncommon. For example, New York City, a city often compared to London, does not yet have a congestion charge. South of the River Thames presents a different scenario compared to the north. While the London Underground does extend south with lines like the Victoria and Jubilee, its presence is minimal. One of the 272 underground stations, only 31 are in South London. This lack of transportation infrastructure is largely due to geological differences. The soil north of the Thames is ideal for tunneling, while the south has waterlogged clay, making tunneling more challenging. South London is less polluted, making above-ground construction more feasible and affordable. If you look at a map of London from 1794, you'll notice the city primarily expanded to the north and west of the Thames. Consequently, the London Underground was built where most people lived and where it was most needed. This area is presented the greatest opportunities at the time. Additionally, by the time the Underground began construction, South London had already had an extensive suburban rail system developed by various private railway companies, so there was less need for an underground rail network there. As a result, millions of Londoners living south of the Thames rely more on suburban rail than on the tube. This is where the National Rail comes into play. The National Rail is a cooperative association for train operating companies that together form Great Britain's intercity train network, which is crucial for public transport in South London where the Underground is sparse. London trams also play a role, although they mainly serve Croydon and its surrounding areas, with nearly 30 million annual riders. The final piece of London's transportation networks is the Elizabeth Line. Although still new and not fully operational, this commuter and intercity line connects the Great Western Main Line and Great Eastern Main Line via central London stations. Its significance is enormous as it drastically reduces travel times. For example, the journey from Woolwich to Whitechapel now takes just 9 minutes instead of 25 to 30 minutes, and Farringdon to Canary Wharf is now only 10 minutes, a reduction of over 50%. The Elizabeth Line will greatly speed up travel and relieve pressure on the Central Line, one of the busiest tube lines. Transport for London, TfL, is the organization responsible for managing several key components of London's public transport system, including the tube, overgrounds, Docklands Light Railway, buses, and trams. This extensive oversight allows these different modes of transport to work seamlessly together. For example, the tube and DLR have numerous interchange stations, facilitating smooth transfers between their networks. Together, these systems handle over 40% of the journeys between inner and outer London, highlighting their importance in the city's main transport infrastructure. One of the key features that enhances integration of these systems is the Oyster card, the electronic ticketing system roughly the size of a credit card, offering nearly unlimited use across almost all of London's public transport for a relatively affordable price, depending on when it was used. Although the popularity of the Oyster card has declined with the rise of contactless payment options, it remains a vital part of the system and is still used over 12 million times annually. While London's public transport is extensive and efficient, it's not the only option for getting around the city. Walking, for example, accounts for 24% of all journeys in London, making it a significant mode of transport. London is recognized as the fifth most walkable city in the world, a status that can be attributed to its long history. As one of the oldest major cities globally, London was not originally designed with cars in mind. Instead, it developed organically over nearly 2,000 years, particularly before the advent of the automobile. This historic growth has resulted in a city layout that naturally lends itself to walking. The city's walkability is further enhanced by the fact that after World War II, significant reconstruction efforts took place, particularly in areas heavily bombed by the Germans. While there was still some level of post-war urban planning, much of London's street network retains its historical character, with narrow lanes and winding roads that encourage walking rather than driving. Despite some challenges, such occasional delays and issues with TfL's funding, problems that would require an entirely separate discussion to fully explore, London's transportation system is remarkably effective considering the resources it has. The city's transport network is a testament to how well a complex, multifaceted system can function with properly managed and integrated. Getting around London is generally easy and efficient, thanks to the interconnectedness of the various transportation systems managed by TfL. Whether you're using the tube, overground, DLR, buses, or trams, the options available make navigating the city straightforward. Additionally, the availability of the Oyster card and the walkability of the city provides residents and visitors with convenient alternatives to using private cars. While there are areas for improvement, London's public transport system is a model of how to make the most of the infrastructure available, ensuring that the city remains accessible and navigable for millions of people every day.